Okay, well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Transformational Storytellers show. Today we have a special guest that I can't wait to tell you about her, and I am so excited that you're here again. Another Thursday. It's a beautiful day, and I'm happy you're here, and I'm happy to be with you. So, in our show, we learn from impact-centered leaders who harness the power of storytelling to ignite transformation in the world. And today I have Tanya Joy with us. And she is an author in volume 4 of The Gifts of Pain, which I cannot believe it that you are being interviewed so soon. So let me tell you about Tanya. She's the founder of Unbreakable Survivors. Yes, you heard that right. So now you know what type of conversation we're going to have today. And she is a survivor. She's also a consultant, and she helps women heal, grow, and break free from toxic relationships with guidance and empowerment in her supportive community. So we're going to learn all about that. Now, tell you more about how you can reach Tanya, and all of her information is going to be in the show notes. So without further ado, hi, Tanya.
Hi, Alina. Thank
How
you for
are you?
having me today.
Oh, absolutely. It is a joy and a pleasure. I can't believe it. I'm so excited and I am just really, really grateful that you get to be with my audience today, our audience, so that they get to know the precious being that you are. So, tell us about your story that you shared in the Gifts of Pain.
Okay, sure. So I was in a marriage for many, many years, and I didn't really realize if it was toxic or unhealthy. And so one day I called the National Domestic Violence Hotline and I explained what I'd been going through. And I asked, is that abuse? I was really scared to hear the answer. And they said, yeah, that's abuse. And I was just shocked. I'm like, oh my gosh, I never knew that abuse could be anything besides physical abuse. And so through this experience, I learned that I was experiencing psychological abuse, spiritual abuse, financial abuse, sexual abuse, all different kinds, even though he never laid a hand on me or my kids. So it got to the point where the kids and I had to decide what to do. And I thought, I can't keep my kids in this situation anymore. And so one morning when he went to work, we just threw like our baby books and our social security cards and the animals in the car. And we hurried and took off because we were worried if he came home and caught us, that it would be a bad situation. So we got to an apartment in a different city, and we had nothing. We had no furniture. It was just a big bare apartment. And we just sat on the floor. And I asked, the kids how they felt and how I felt. And we all agreed that we felt safe and we felt peace and we felt like we could make our own decisions at that point. So it was a big relief. And after going through that, I thought, wow, if I could be in this kind of experience for so many years and not realize that it was actually abuse instead of just an unhealthy relationship, how many more women are out there going through the exact same thing and might not know that they're in the middle of something like this as well? Like, where is the line between unhealthy to toxic to abusive? So that is my mission now, is to help other women to not have to be in abuse as long as I was. So
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that
mhm.
so vulnerably. And, I can relate to it. It
Mhm.
sounded very relatable to me. And I am sure that many people who are watching or listening today can definitely feel that familiarity in your story. And something that I want to ask you to clarify is you mentioned so many types of abuse that I think are not talked about enough. So you mentioned spiritual, financial, emotional. Tell us a little bit about that so that everyone can be clear on what that looks like. Because I think it's really key that we start to talk about it.
Okay, yeah, sure. Thank you. So any kind of abuse also includes coercive control. So somebody has power and control over you, and that's the way they can manipulate you. And so that involves the psychological, the emotional. And so in those things, they might gaslight you and say, oh, this happened back here and you don't remember it the right way. And, it really wasn't that bad. It really didn't happen. So they really mess with your mind. The spiritual control can be something like, well, you can't divorce me because God says that we need to stay together. He hates divorce. So you can't leave, and people will think, yeah, God does hate divorce, but he also doesn't want you to be abused, right? And so they also might do something like use your beliefs, your spiritual beliefs, your religion against you, like not let you go to church or say something similar to, oh, well, in the Bible, it says that you need to submit yourself to me. And if you're not, then you're being, bad and not following God's will. And so that's another one. Another one is financial. So, for example, if your partner is holding the money and not sharing it with you, what is equal and what you deserve, what you've earned, that's financial abuse. Or if they keep you from working, or if they force you to change jobs or not do what you want to do in a certain position. Yeah, that's it, that kind.
Yeah,
If I can just mention the sexual real quick, if that's okay with you.
I would
You know,
love that. Yes.
Okay, so a lot of people don't know that you can actually be raped in your marriage or in your relationship by your partner. So if they force you to do things that you don't want to do, or if you feel coerced or if you feel forced in some way, that is also abuse. And yeah, I also didn't realize that until later, but I
Yeah,
feel like it's important and it needs to be out there. So,
absolutely. It is something that I'm an advocate for,
mhm,
and I have experienced personally. So I am on board with you sharing, but also I invite everyone on this call to look into that, to to look inside themselves for any of these signs that you mentioned,
mhm,
and to also do research online. And like you bravely called, the hotline. So you called for help because if you feel there's something that doesn't feel right, then there definitely is something that is not right. So I really love the message that you share. You are an inspiration, and there's no, um, I would say, coincidence or no surprise in you being awarded the Brave Author of the Year award,
thank
because
you.
it definitely was a brave story that you shared. And I think that in this society, every time we speak up as women, especially, um, we have to be brave. It shouldn't be the case. It should be that we just share, but that is the reality. And so, with that being said, I would love for you to tell us, why did you share your story? Why do we have the call to action to be brave and share our stories? Why is it important?
I feel like that so much of domestic abuse or domestic violence, however you want to say it, and involves all of those things, is kind of taboo to talk about. People are afraid, like, oh my gosh, what are people going to think of me if they know that I'm in an abusive relationship? Or, they might say, oh, why have you not left? Why don't you just leave? Things like that. So I want it to be talked about so it's not so taboo. It should be okay to say, hey, I'm struggling in my relationship. Do you know any help I can get or any resources, or have you been through something similar? So it's not something that should be scary or not talked about. Oh, just keep this in the family. Don't tell anybody outside of the family. So that's why I feel it's important for us to share and also to know that we can get to the other side. You and I both are safe now.
Yeah,
And I feel like a lot of people may not be, and they might not have that hope that, oh, yeah, there is a way to get past it. There is a path to get help and someone to guide you and someone to support you through it. And also afterwards, when you come out, now what? Is the abuse over? Might not be. So.
yeah, absolutely. And what was that process like for you to share your story?
It felt very liberating. I felt really good inside that I was able to use something bad that happened in my life, something difficult with other people, so that I actually, after I left, I'm spiritual. I believe in God. And I felt like God told me one of the reasons why you went through this is so you can help other people with it. And from your guidance with telling my story, it really helped me to be able to bring people into my story, so they could feel like they're in it and feel what I'm experiencing and see it. And um, yeah, so it's not just reading something, but you actually feel like you're a part of it. So I appreciated that.
Oh, I'm so happy, and it is, why I share it is also because I feel that that's also my purpose. So it feels really great to be on purpose and to know that God gave you a mission and that what you went through wasn't in vain. And I think that it is something that we can all learn from. So thank you for that, because there are so many people right now who might be listening or watching, or someone they know
Mhm.
who's in the middle of this, and they don't see that there might be a gift, a hidden, very, very deep, very, very hidden gift in their situation. So that's definitely what we're looking for. But the gift is not only that we're now safe and that that's possible for everyone, but also that we can be a beacon of light to someone else. So thank you for illustrating that so beautifully. And thank you for the work that you're doing with your supportive community, because as you illustrated, it's not only that we need to do this work for ourselves, but there are so many helping hands and helping hearts willing to guide us and empower us like you do. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, tell us a little bit about your work now that we talked about how amazing you are. And I mean that definitely. And what is it that you do, and what do you love about it? What lights you up about it?
So I have women come to me, both in my community here and also online. And I am basically a guide and a support that they need to reach out to feel safe. It's a safe place. There's no judgment. whether they're going back or getting out, or, they want to stay, but just need some guidance through it, helping to come up with emergency safety plans. And then once they come out, helping them to know what they might expect. They might feel trauma bond. That might be a strange thing to some people. What is that? Well, you might feel drawn to go back. They might convince you, come on, it's okay. I'm going to change. I'm going to counseling, all of these things. And so just how to navigate that. And a lot of people don't have that because people usually have some kind of support system, whether that's family or friends, but a lot of times, unless you've been through it or been in it, they might not understand exactly the best way to help. They might, of course, just because they don't know, they're not trying to not give them the best advice, but to just say, you need to leave. That can be really hard on someone to hear that, and they're not going to until they're ready. So it's, just like any other issue you have, until you're ready to get help. So I use my own experience, my education, my resources to just walk through this journey of abuse with them and afterwards. So
That is fantastic. And thank you for doing that. And I can relate that, sometimes when we're seeking help, it doesn't feel like we can get it because the people who we know love us can offer helpful support. And it's beautiful that you acknowledge, and I acknowledge that a bit later. It doesn't feel that
yeah,
great in the moment, right? But then
right, yeah.
later on, when you're more clear-headed and you're on the other side, we can see they just didn't know how to be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really comforting when we come to that realization. But again, it does take time and it does take a certain level of clarity. And
Mm-hmm.
so I want to, validate both parts right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the part that is really hurt, deeply hurt, that maybe we're misunderstood and that people can't really help us, and the part that from that person's point of view, that they want what's best for somebody. But I think that's why we all need to be educated, to become educated, whether we have been through it or not, about what it looks like to be a supportive person. And so the work that you do definitely is needed and life-saving, because this can lead to so many paths, not only the path of mental health issues, but also mental health spirals. And I know because I have been in those spirals myself. So thank you so much. And why do you think it's so essential that we learn about all these types of abuse? Because I think that domestic violence or intimate partner violence can take so many different facets, right? There are so many sides of it, and we don't recognize it in ourselves, like you said. But why does somebody else need to learn to recognize it when they're not going through it?
It's a good question. So, as I've gone through working with people, almost 100% of people that I have met know someone that has been in an abusive relationship or is currently in an abusive relationship. People just usually don't speak up about it. And so it touches almost everyone. It's very widespread. And it's important to teach the young people, especially, high schools, college. There's so much abuse going on there, as well as when you get older too. And it's not even just women, it's men, it's, it can be anybody, any gender, any, anyone. Um, and a lot of times for them specifically, it's very taboo, because they don't think they will be accepted.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they're not. In your community, you might only have a women's shelter. Well, what do the
Mhm.
guys do that are being abused? But there are options. Sometimes they'll pay for them to go to a hotel for a while, or sometimes people don't want to leave because of, oh, I have pets. Well, there are some available where you can bring your pets with you. So, yeah, everybody just needs to know, and to help prevent it in the future. If you can see the red flags ahead of time and say, oh, that's a red flag, right? Um, for example, some red flags that are very apparent to me now that weren't at the time is if your partner is trying to isolate you from your friends, from your family, like, oh, let's not go over there on Sundays anymore. They don't like me. Or, yeah, that friend that, yeah, I don't think they're very good for you. So just really tiny ways. But then if you feel like you're walking on eggshells every day around them because you don't know if they're going to blow up at you for a different reason today than it was yesterday,
Mm,
you set the table today and you didn't set the table the next day, they might blow up. And it's you just never know when it's going to happen. Another one is just if you feel very controlled in that you always have to do what they want to do. You go out to eat, you go to where they want to go. If you're at home, you have to run the house the way they want it to be run. So basically, you're losing your autonomy to even make your own choices or to take care of the kids, things like that. So
yeah,
it's, yeah, important to look out for those.
absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, I really love the awareness that you're bringing because it's this very little nuanced signs that might just be brushed off. And I love that you're bringing that awareness because sometimes we want to be people pleasing.
Mhm.
And people pleasing is also a trauma response. So I think being aware of the signs can help us stop and think and really realize that there might be more to just someone's having a bad day or these excuses that we use for people. And so one last question, because unfortunately we're running out of time, but I think this needs to be discussed, and it's how do we stay safe while also liberating ourselves from the situation? Because I know that it's tricky, and a lot of people, like you said, don't understand. Sometimes we stay because it's safer to stay, and that's at least how it feels. Sometimes it is a reality. And so what are some, quick tips that you can give our people listening? And I love that you specified that this is not a female gender issue, that there are so many other people who are suffering of any gender. And so what are some ways to kind of get started in the process and stay safe if we feel that there might be repercussions when the other party finds out that we are gaining or regaining our power?
Mhm. Yeah, it can be a scary time, especially within the first 72 hours of somebody, if they decide to leave, it can be very dangerous for them. And so that's something to be aware of, that even if your partner was never, physically abusive or in different ways, it can escalate during those 72 hours. So they just really need to be very careful. Some things to do is to come up with a safety plan ahead of time. One is to let people know where you are, kind of what your situation is, and that you might be fleeing at some point. So you might have a friend or something where you can run to quickly, or send the kids. Make sure you have your paperwork that you will need to take with you, whether that's, like I mentioned, your social security card, your marriage license, your, the deed to your house, things like that, that you might need to take with you, as well as if you have, children, bring some diapers, bring some clothes, bring some food that they might need, and if you're bringing your pets, plan ahead. Also, you might want to start putting a little bit of money away somewhere that's safe, keep it with a friend so you have somewhere to go. You can reach out to local shelters and they can let you know, hey, we have room here. If you feel like it's a time where you want to go, you're welcome to come here, and just see what the situation is. But your partner better than anyone else. So you just need to do what you need to do in your situation to try and stay as safe as possible, whether that's, just tread really lightly, act like everything's okay, and go along with them so that you have a time to escape or to run next door, just make sure you have a vehicle or someone to come pick you up. But yeah, just plan ahead and it makes it a lot easier if you're in a dangerous situation. And of course, if you're in immediate danger, of course, call 911 or get immediate
Absolutely.
help.
Yeah, that is absolutely important. Thank you so much for everything that you have shared. I definitely appreciate the work that you do and the passion and love with which you do it. And of course, that comes from the pain that you went through. Thank you for sharing that pain with the world so that we can have more awareness, so that we can have more safety, so that we can have more empowerment. And thank you for helping so many women heal, grow, and break free. And for everyone who's here, what is one last thing, one last invitation that you have for people so that they can get started with helping in this cause?
So I have an online community that's a safe place where we come and have support groups and courses and, masterminds, and where we just get together with everyone and help each other through. So it's basically survivors helping survivors.
Mhm.
And I feel like, a lot of people need a safe place. And so it's not like on Facebook where people can just jump on and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm abused too," and it could be your ex trying to infiltrate you. So
Mhm.
it's a safe online location that we use. So
Yeah. Yes, and that is unbreakablesurvivors.com. And you're
yes.
going to see that in the show notes. And also, you're going to find how to follow Tanya Joy at Unbreakable Survivors. So I am so grateful for our conversation today. I'm so grateful that you're part of the Gifts of Pain family. Her story is in book 4, so everybody make sure that you check it out. Tanya, you're definitely a joy for sure. And
Thank you.
thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Elena.
Thank you, everyone. See you next week on the Transformational Storyteller Show. I love you. Bye.